Hi,
Boom.
Shawn.
Hey, Sherry. How are you doing?
It's such it's such an easy win, isn't it? Like you press go live and then you go live and it's like, okay, like
Well, we've all been and had those moments where we hit the go live button and nothing happens.
it's true.
And that's
It's true. It's true. I'm happy to be back here with you, Shawn. Thank you for making the time.
likewise. Thank you. As always, this is our follow up to our Hard Stuff is Okay meeting that we have on growthday.com. We like to debrief and just talk about some insights and things that really struck us from the call. I guess I'm just jumping into the spiel, Sherry. So
Good. Yeah.
Um, this group, the Heart Stuff's Okay, came from about a year and a half ago. Sherry and I met for coffee with our respective people, and so Ashley was there, and um, we're talking about we were reading this book, Bittersweet by Susan Cain, and we connected on being part of this high performance personal development world. We're both certified high performance coaches, and how sometimes there's this expectation and pressure to always be on, to always be progressing, to always be positive. And this book, Bittersweet, was talking about those moments where there's joy and sorrow married, and that's how people connect. And so we do this group now for the personal development group to kind of hold space for those bittersweet feelings and to just connect with people. I, I think that's a good
Yeah.
summary of what we do. And anything else, Sherry?
One thing I just want to appreciate you because you always bring in that very important point, which I'm glad you do, which is that not only is it really healthy for us to be able to feel all our feelings and to allow
Mhm.
ourselves to have disappointment, despair, fear, grief, you name it, and that counterintuitively, it is what helps us connect to other people. And I love that you
Mhm.
always bring in that part about the connection. And I think you and I, if I could speak for you, we experience this every time we lead these groups. Even
Mhm.
though we don't know a lot of the people who are coming, they may have been to a group before once or twice. There's this immediate intimacy that happens,
Mhm.
right? And so I'm glad that you always bring that in, and maybe that's the place to start is just to remind people of that.
Yeah, I thank you for pointing that out. And it's something that I definitely believe and maybe haven't articulated as directly as like this is a good like main driving reason for this work that we're doing together. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. And I think that the reason I said that it can feel counterintuitive is that I know for myself, and I talk to a lot of people about this, is that there is that feeling of I should hide when I'm going through a hard time because I don't want to bring people down. I should
mhm.
hide because they're going to see who I really am and they're not going to like it. Or I should hide, whatever those reasons are that we tell ourselves when we're going through
Mhm.
something hard that we should hide, they're just not true.
Right. It's super interesting because like I for me like it's traditionally been I don't want to burden other
Yeah.
people with every all this heavy stuff that I'm feeling that maybe they don't want to hear. And as actually I was talking with some friends earlier today about our like the branding and like the coaching and stuff, and kind of realizing that for me, like part of this hiding is trying to be buttoned up, like it's a corporate thing. I was in corporate environments for a
Yeah.
while, and it's
Yeah.
like stuffing down those things so you can be the person that's clear-headed and calm and and can handle business and move forward without getting too stressed out and stuff. And there's this pull between that professionalism and then being human, just feeling all these things and expressing it. And, I don't know, just kind of as we're talking through this, that's, struck me as, there's these places where maybe we're expected or we feel like we're
Yeah.
expected to not show emotion, and maybe as the world's progressed and we're more like visible and like authenticity is not having that compartmentalized
Yeah.
identity, but it's like, it's me. and I can feel sad, and I can share that, my parent passed away, and like that's a thing that's part of me, and that's who you're dealing with right now when you're trying to get the status update on the
Yes.
project.
Oh, Shawn. Oh, that was so beautifully said, right? Because what's coming up for me is something else that you and we talk a lot about the grays, right? I think you and I
Hmm.
both talk about it's not black or white. It doesn't have to be this or that. We don't have to be, only our despair or disappointment or grief.
Hmm.
However, like so what you were just saying, like to me it seems almost like we're more I'll speak for myself. I'm more
Hmm.
capable. I'm more able to get that status report if I can also bring along what's really true for me.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I'm kind of just like trying to pretend like some actor, trying to remember my lines. And you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to
Yeah.
be sad. So what am I? Oh, I got to be this. And it's bumbly is how I feel
Hmm.
inside.
No, definitely. It's the opposite of feeling grief. Isn't feeling happy. It's feeling dead inside. It's deadening it. You can't be happy. You can't feel anything else if you're cutting this part out from you.
Yes.
And it's so much of I like this person and want to help them is those maybe ugly parts showing up and being like, oh, like we're all imperfect. Like there's this weird like professionalism, which I feel is like a chase for perfectionism of like
Yeah.
doing everything right with the right decisions and the right head and the right approach. And it's like we're messy.
Yeah.
Let's just let let's let the mess out. Like, and there's perfection in the mess, right? Like we're actually more perfect showing our scars and wounds than pretending that they don't exist and we're invulnerable. You know.
Yeah, I love that. I love that the whole like just and again, we're not saying, and I think we were talking about this. This was one of the things that came
Hmm.
up at our group. We're not saying like just to be a mess, especially if you're in a professional situation or there's something that you're, needing to show up for. There is a middle ground there, but we can
Hmm.
bring that. I just think that that's part of it. We can bring it with us and we're less likely to be a mess to be a mess if we acknowledge that we are a mess. That's
Yeah.
what wants to come out.
Yeah. You can be a mess without being messy, I guess, maybe is a different
Yeah,
way, you
I
know.
like that. I like
Uh,
that. Thank you.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And then in a lot of ways, I've been doing some different readings around like being original in the world and like how things get created. And I know you're
Hmm.
really interested in the creative process. And so we both also know that the creative process does not happen within that arena of perfectionism,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You never get anything done if you're trying to get the perfect song, the perfect poem, the perfect podcast, like you're not getting the feedback and learning and lived experience when you're trying to perfect it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just glanced down at my notes because there were some other really important things. If it's okay if I move on to a different
Yeah.
aspect.
To- Totally.
One of the things I really appreciated about some of the things, and we're always keep things confidential. We just sort of talk in general terms,
Hmm.
but that today I felt like there was a theme of loss of something that we had imagined would come to fruition or something that we had thought we were building with a partner. There was sort of that interesting theme. And I feel like this definitely does not get a lot of airspace in the world, which is
Hmm.
that it is a very real loss when we think we're going to get that job or we think we're going to build a certain kind of life with someone and that doesn't happen, or we think we're going to have a certain kind of connection or intimacy and that doesn't
Hmm.
grow. Those are losses too, even though they really never came to fruition. We can still feel the loss, and I really appreciated the subtlety of that people brought in today.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because I agree with you on that. And but I think I might have mentioned, or you might have mentioned that it's almost harder when you have those disappointments or those relationships that persist beyond what you thought, or because you run into them in unexpected ways. Whereas like grieving
Yeah.
a death, it's finite, you're past the event, and now you're just trying to handle it. um the wounds that are actively around, walking around you, sometimes can
Yeah.
be, because like also it's a rallying cry for people, like, hey, we had this event, let me bring you a casserole. That was somebody said that in
Right.
the group. But like, hey, you're disappointed because you're really striving to get this job and you were so close, and now you'll see like the truck for the company go by, and you're like, that could have
No.
been,
Right.
I could have been a part of that. And you're not, nobody's there to like notice that that's what's happening
Yes.
internally.
Ah, perfect example, right? Right. And again and again and again, I mean, you could, how many times do we hear people say, I shouldn't be feeling that, or I can't believe I'm still feeling this, or that was so long
Hmm.
ago. And gosh, that's the one thing too. If I could wave a wand and just like have people give themselves so much more grace, that
Hmm.
these things don't just disappear. And it's not a mindset thing. I think that that's, again, one of the tricky places of being, in personal development. Well, if I only had the right mindset, I could mindset my way out of this feeling. And it doesn't
Hmm.
work like that. Yeah.
No, no, you need the right heart set. And I think that a lot of what we're talking about is feeling the feelings and not bottling it up. Like, it feels like fireworks, like you're making fireworks when you're not letting it burn off. And
Yes.
so, at least in my life, when I do that, and I do that a lot more than I would really love to, or I think I should, like, it comes out as an explosive burst of anger or
Yes.
sadness or whatever, when it could have been a slow burn. And there's not that ignition point where you feel like you lose control of your emotions, or you feel like you're at the whims of, you don't control how you're feeling.
Yeah, I love that. And you had said something a few minutes ago that really stuck with me, which was that the opposite of grief and loss is not happy. It's
Hmm.
it's, it's that flatlining or that deadening, the numbing. And
Hmm.
I think that that's a really important thing too, because we may push things down, push things down, push things down, and then suddenly walk around and just feel like, I'm speaking for myself, of course, here, right? This is a very known experience. Suddenly I'm walking around like I don't feel anything. I don't feel my
Hmm.
life. I don't feel the delight. I don't feel the joy. And then it's like start to take off all and be like, oh yeah, I've layered on all of this stuff that I didn't want to feel or talk about. um
Hmm.
yeah, which is why I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah, same. And that's such a good call out too, that like there's so many very convenient ways for us to numb out. I was just thinking about, like, it's so accessible, and I wonder, and maybe you have a thought on this, of like, as we become more connected digitally, or we have access to an infinite amount of content, movies, music, you name it, um, all these distractions or things that we use to kind of forget about what's going on internally. Like, how do you, or how does our topic of dealing with the hard stuff fit in with all of that, or those habits, or those unconscious habits? I haven't really thought to ask that question. Like,
Yeah,
what
and
do,
it's a
what do you?
good one. Yeah, thanks, Shawn. I think what it's bringing up for me is also the extraordinary need to be in the moment with ourselves, because I know, and I have many practices. I have toolkits of things that can kind of help me to see the light when things are really dark, or to feel,
Mhm.
like not to fall into the pit of despair. So I have a
Mhm.
lot of tools like that. And sometimes those tools are really helpful. And sometimes those tools themselves are a distraction, because I don't want to feel what's having me slide towards the pit. And I think
Mhm.
it takes a real moment to moment sort of honesty with myself to know the difference. Like, is this a moment to pull out some tool, and
Hmm.
that could, that I know this isn't exactly what you're talking about, but some distractions are also tools, I guess, is where I
Hmm.
went with it, right? There's some places that are fine lines. And some things we just know are like, as I'm mindlessly scrolling, I know that I'm avoiding something. Like for
Yeah.
me, that may not be
Hmm.
for everyone. For me, easy, that's an easy tell, but not so easy if I'm like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, go to da 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 or and do this, whatever, that can
Hmm.
also be a distraction. I don't know if that made any sense.
It does 100%. And like the question then is like, how do you know that? And my guess, and I maybe you'll agree with this, is it's different for every person. Like it's really helpful to know when you need an intervention, because it's also like there's kind of this happened to me recently. Like I'm dealing with some family stuff and I'm angry about some stuff and I don't know where to put the anger.
Yeah.
And you just feel like it's all consuming and you're like, I can't function this way without something either bad happening or having an aneurysm or like like it's not healthy for me to be stuck in this thing. So I'm gonna, access my toolbox and like go for a walk, get the energy moving a little bit, and then do some journaling. And then that usually, for 99% of things, gets my head and heart right. To then
Yeah.
be like, now I can sit with like, why do I feel so angry and what's going
Yeah.
on? What do I do to get out of this? Um, yeah.
What you just said, I think, was really important. And again, we could rename everything we're doing that it's not either or,
Yeah.
but it's not, right? That it's like, how can I support myself? How can I maybe get out of the immediacy and the flood? To me, I always feel flooded with certain emotions.
Hmm.
How do I
Yeah.
get out of that enough to then be able to reflect and perhaps to support myself in a way that isn't just going to like loop the story over and over, which is not supportive,
Yeah.
you know?
And, on the topic of the hard things are okay, like this, I have this question. So, like I said, I had angry about some stuff with some family members, and my belief is if I express my anger, it's going to make it worse.
Mm,
And maybe that's the story in relation to this. And part of me is also like I need to have the hard conversation to kind of deal with some root issues to prevent
right.
this. And so, like in this story of like, okay, I have a tool to kind of help misdirect and kind of analyze and think of stuff. Is it also preventing me from expressing anger about
Oh,
something that's important that actually causes the change that I'm hoping? And I don't know the answer to
yeah.
that.
Yeah. And thank goodness we're not here to have any answers, right? Because
Yeah,
otherwise we
yeah.
but what I love, and and I think as coaches, right, questions are everything. I think that's all a
Hmm.
part of it. Like, I think a big part of it is your emotional intelligence to ask yourself that, right?
Mm.
That's the open door. There's an open door right now of like, am I processing this so that when I do bring this up with this person, if I choose to, that it will come from a place they might be able to hear it and we can actually make some constructive movement,
Hmm.
or am I just not quite like expressing what I need to express because that's scary? I don't know what's going to
Yeah.
happen. And, no right or wrong answers, of course, but to me, what you're doing again is emotional intelligence because you're not saying, I'm just going to go get a beer and watch Netflix because
Hmm.
I don't know what to do with all this. And nothing wrong with that either, right? There are
Yeah.
times we need to just cope and get through. But
Hmm.
at some point, right, we do need to turn and face what's going on. And that's what I feel like that's what you're doing. You're like, you know, not sure. And it's really my belief that when we stay with those kinds of questions, that the answers come to us.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that's my experience too. And I just appreciate you and your spiritual practice and what you bring to these conversations. And it's validating, and it's also um, related to the hard stuff's okay. It's such a unique and wonderful perspective. So thanks, Sherry.
Oh, oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for saying that. I mean, I do feel grateful that I actually I really do believe in the power of asking ourselves questions. It's why I love
Hmm.
coaching. It's why I love
Hmm.
journaling. I have an audio recording practice. And I do feel as if it may not happen immediately, but I do feel as if, who says that? Asking, ye shall receive. That must be from the Bible, I guess. I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
I don't know where that's from. Anyway, I do think that's true in all the different ways that people say that. That if you ask,
Hmm.
again, not maybe not immediately, but the answer comes. It's the not wanting to know, the not wanting to face it, the what's
Hmm.
wrong with me that I'm feeling this way that I think gets in the way of that.
Yeah. I agree. It's the, yeah, not sitting with it, not engaging with it. It's things in your life that you're disengaging on or not, addressing
Right.
proactively, that are usually the things that are your next breakthrough, from the coaching perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Or your next illness is what came to me too.
Or your next, yeah.
You know, yeah. That's why, again, like I have so much admiration for you that you're willing to engage. I mean, because it's like what we're really doing is just showing up and inviting people in to, it's like we don't have answers, but this is all okay. It's
Yeah.
okay
Mhm.
just to show up. And in fact, hopefully more than okay. It's hopefully very healing to just show up and ask the questions.
Yeah. And sit with the feelings, and it to not be a burden on people and all that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I see that we're almost up against our time. Was there anything
mhm.
else from today or even this conversation now that you wanted to make sure we brought in?
I had a little, like, just trying to phrase thing that popped in, and instead of ask and you shall receive, it's seek and you shall receive. Because I think,
Oh,
like, that's what an ask really is. It's curiosity, but um, so that's something I might chew on. But no, this is really super wonderful and helpful and connective and all the things that we love and hope for the group. Um, and yeah, I think you're really good at saying, if showing appreciation on these calls. Especially like for me and Sherry, that these calls would not happen without you
oh,
either. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that we get to do this every so often. Um, yeah, it just feels really good. So thank you.
oh, yeah. Thank you, Shawn. I love this. And I saw Tamara just popped in. Hi, Tamara.
Hey,
Tamara has
Tamara.
one of my teachers and a friend who we practice together,
Hmm.
being with the hard stuff, being, when you're like one of those like strong people, yeah, it's a practice to show up and be vulnerable. And so I was happy to see her pop in. And the last thing I did want to say, because we did on our group, we were talking about some loss of animal family members. And
Yeah.
it really struck me, and I really want to put this out to people, that it's like when you think about how comforting animals are without saying a word, they don't solve anything, they don't have advice, they're not like, let me tell you how to handle this, but that pure comfort of simply being together. And I think that was one of the bigger things I took away from our group today too, was
Hmm.
when it's possible for us, if we have a friend or a family member or ourselves going through a hard time, not to forget the power of simply showing up and
Hmm.
and being, even in silence, can be so it's such a gift. So thanks to our animal friends for for teaching us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. And so true. And of course, like if you had a special animal friend, as I know you're dealing with a recent loss again, very sorry to hear. I always think of my cat Slider
No.
and Puff, the family cats growing up, and just how cool it was. Know, just have you have a lap, and they're like, that's a very comfortable place to be, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it almost matters more when you're feeling down, but
Yes.
like when you're happy too, like you're like it just helps everything all around, and it's that presence. And I think that's kind of another like theme that we talk about is just being present with our feelings in community with each other.
Yes.
Uh, and I love that idea. And I'm so glad we get to do this over and over and over again.
Yeah, me
Again.
too. Over and over
So,
again. Thank you, Shawn. And we'll be back always to talk about the hard stuff. And anybody who's maybe watching now or later, yeah, I hope that you take that away, that it's okay. There's no timeline when things are hard,
mhm.
that you're allowed to feel, and hopefully you will feel what you feel. And there's someone that you love who can be there with you in silence or speaking. I hope that that's the case. So,
Yeah.
mwah. Thanks,
All right.
Shawn.
Thanks, Sherry. Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.